So let's look at some of these categories of tasks that may be good candidates for automation. So you can automate email tasks, drafting responses, for example. So if you get standard inquiries or meeting confirmations, thank you notes, status updates, there's certain emails that you just have to send all the time. So you could use AI to draft those responses for you. So for example, write a professional email response to a student ask for a deadline extension or something like that. Email summarization is another good one. So these tools are very good for summarizing long email threads and extracting action items and extracting important information. And they can identify urgent versus routine messages. That's what you want to do is identify urgent versus routine. So then you can see which ones can be automated. If you were to automate these email tasks, you're going to save probably 30 to 60 minutes a day, depending on how many of these emails you get, obviously. But roughly, you're going to save yourself about an hour daily. So next one will be managing meetings. So normally you'll have a before, your pre-meeting briefs, so your agenda preparation, things like that. So certain things that you might need to do before a meeting, and what you can do is you can use AI to help you with that. So create a 1 hour meeting agenda for a departmental plan session. And like we said, with the prompts before, give it some context, give it the task, and then give it some constraints, and then give it the output, the format of the output that you want. So it can help us before the meeting. Then during the meeting, there are real-time note-taking applications, for example, like within Teams and stuff, where they can automatically transcribe your notes. And then afterwards, for minutes and follow-up meetings and things like that, you can again use these tools, to help you automate that. So transform these raw meeting notes into formal minutes, including such and such. So per meeting, this can save probably up to about 30 minutes, depending, obviously on how long the meeting is and things like that. But generally, if for routine meetings that are probably 30 minutes long, this will probably save you around 30 minutes per meeting. So creating content, there's loads of different content that you might want to create. Things like reports, proposals, presentations, maybe even some course materials if you're trying to learn something new. So there's loads of different ways that you can use these tools to create different documents. The time saved is obviously going to be dependent on which the specific document that you're working on, but normally if you were doing a massive report, let's say it was 20 pages long, you're probably going to save a good few hours. And again, what you're doing is you're using this to help you, but then you're going to be reviewing what the output is, so you'll never whatever document it creates, what's going to really take you the most time is reviewing the document that's been created. Content enhancement and repurposing is a popular one, so you can use it for improving things like improving existing text. So for, let's say if you wanted to simplify, you could say remove or rewrite this paragraph for a general audience, remove jargon, use simpler words and add examples, and then you can just paste the text in. Or expansion as well, so expand these bullet points into a coherent narrative with transitions and examples, target 2 to 3 paragraphs. So it's very good for improving any existing text that we might have. Content repurposing, so let's say I had an academic paper and I wanted to put it into a blog post and a social media post. Again, I can use these tools to do that very quickly. So I could say something like create 3 versions of this course announcement, and then you give it the tasks that you want, the 3 versions, and then you just paste the original announcement. So depending on, again, this is going to be dependent on per document or per the actual content that you're changing. This probably will vary, but you will save multiple hours per repurposing task typically. We go to data analysis, some processing and reporting. We can do things like data cleaning. So we could upload a CSV, comma separated values file that just has our raw data. And then we could say to it, identify missing values, check for duplicates, standardize the date formats, flag potential outliers, and so on. So we can use it for data cleaning, but also some basic analysis as well. So we could calculate basic statistics, identify trends or patterns, can create tables and visualizations as well, so you can create different charts. So there's loads of different basic analysis that you can do with these tools. All you need to do is provide the data. Automated reporting as well, so we could, let's say we wanted a monthly report, then we could basically give it the template or say create a template based on these different metrics, whatever that may be. Again, very good we could upload a CSV, we could clean it, we could analyze it, and then we could write a report from our analysis. So again, you always want to verify AI generated stats, because you can never trust their mathematical capabilities. So it's good for initial exploration, but you need to confirm with proper statistical software. So I know it kind of defeats the purpose, but to be responsible with these tools, you need to always double check what they're saying before you use that information, as actionable kind of intelligence. Typically for these data tasks, again, depending on the size of your data set, it can save you multiple hours. And this is something, that again, you would want to continually track yourself, whatever your specific task is, how long would that normally take you? And then, if you were to automate part of that task, then what time saving are you getting? So is it worth actually doing the automation? So looking at some industry specific automations, we could use these tools for marketing communications. You do press release drafting, customer communication templates, social media posts, so that would save you up to maybe 10 hours a week. Project management, very good for that, for note taking, for planning timelines, the meeting coordination, things like that, like we talked about. So very good for project management and for analysing documents. Human resources, job description creation, interview question development, employee communications, and policy documentation. So all of that, when you put that all together, that can save multiple hours per week or per task. And then technology, so for code documentation, for code writing, for technical writing, any user guide creation, bug report analysis, things like that. These are all really good tools for those types of automations.